Okay, this video is about what I said previously in my last video. I show how to take, or how I take, the Atlas off with this tool, or Kato, Atlas or Kato flywheels. And the main thing to know about these is they're pretty difficult no matter what you do to get them off. So I suppose the reason why you want to get them off is because you're trying to save the flywheel, because you can't find the correct flywheels to replace the ones you have. So the only thing you can do is get a bare motor with no flywheel. The shaft on these motors is like a 1.8 millimeter. Okay, what I do is, and you can't put these flywheels back on without trying to press them on. You've taken them off, and they're so hard to get off it's almost impossible. And what I have to do is I have to put them in the tool, just like I do Athens and others. And then I take, and I've made this tool myself, this fork, to go in between the motor and the tool underneath the flywheel. And you want this tool to have two pry parts, one on either side, so that it's coming up against metal on metal. Okay, so you're putting pressure on the motor, pressing downward. At the same time, you've got it set up in the tool, and you turn it as hard as you can and as tight as you can without bending the shaft, but as hard as you can, and then prying on the bottom at the same time. To get a hold of the tool, it's a little difficult to do. Trying to do it on camera, and you press on the bottom, and I'm telling you, you're going to bend the motor shaft. But since the motor's no good, I assume is what you're doing. You're trying to get these off. You're going to have to really pry on it real hard, and it may take 10-15 minutes to actually pry one of these off. You can take any flathead screwdriver and like a Dremel or some other tool. I think Harbor Freight's got a fairly inexpensive one, and you can take those abrasive wheels, cut off wheels, and you can actually cut a section out of the tool like this. So every time I do anything with these to add to the ability of the tool to do anything, it costs more money, and I charge more money for them, and then people don't want to pay it, because let's face it, people in our hobby are paying gobs of money all the time for locomotives, rolling stock, repair parts, etc. It's an expensive hobby. So when you come right down to it, people don't want to pay more money for something else, like a tool like mine, because you're going to use it like once in a while, maybe once a year, twice a year, sometimes maybe more than that. So anyway, I don't make these and then offer these with the kit. I'm just not going to do it. People aren't going to pay for the tool as it is. I've hardly sold, God, I can't remember exactly, but I've sold over 333 or almost 350 tools in the past. Golly, let's see, since 2016. I think, or 2015 or 2016. So if you go figure, okay, you're not going to make a fortune doing this. And I've practically been giving them away, because it takes anywhere from, depending on what you're trying to do with the tool, up to 8 hours to make one. So figure what's the labor on 8 hours. Then eBay's going to take 12% of the money that's the tool is sold for, plus you're paying for all the raw materials, plus you're paying for whatever, the ink in your printer, or a brand new printer, or the paper that goes in it, or the boxes to ship it in, and the padding, so it doesn't get damaged in shipment, and then the drill bits, and oh my gosh. And I've had to replace the batteries on the drills, and replace the drills because I wore those out, and on and on. It's like a never-ending story. Okay. Plus now the postage has gone up, so shipping has gone up on top of that. So if you're going to do these, you're going to have this. It's not worth it. I mean, it's, you know, unless you're charging $100 for a tool, you're not going to make any money on these things. Anyway, I've already had these off. I took them off before, and then I drilled them out to a 2 millimeter, the flywheel. So then I got the flywheels drilled out from a 1.8 millimeter hole to a 2 millimeter. So now they slip and slide on side. I had to glue them back on. You hear that crack? I'm always running my mouth when I'm doing this, and you can't hear it. Hear it again? There, see it? That's the tool pressing down on the motor shaft. It's a 1.8 millimeter motor shaft, okay, coming off of this thing. And the glue is really holding this thing on. So, but I bought these motors. I don't even need them. I'm not using them in a locomotive. I bought these motors on top of everything else you pay for stuff like this just to test it to see if it works on an Atlas or a Kato motor. And that's what I did. And that's how I know it does work, but it's just like almost a nightmare to try to get these things off. So, you know, if you're trying to save your flywheels, great. I'm glad to hear people, you know, hobbyists are doing great, and they're you know, they're fully engaged with the hobby. But you know, and they're trying new things. That's great. That's what the hobby's all about. But you know, these things are so hard. Now I've glued them on so hard, I can't hardly get it off. But anyway, so that's how I do it. And that's how I did it before, and that's how I'll have to do it in the future. And it's just to save the flywheel. It's not to save the motor, I assure you. Because you know, by the time you get through doing this, you know, you just, the shaft is bent. And then you're trying to turn it little by little and get the thing off. See, every time you pry on it, see, it gives you a few more turns on the dial here, on the screw, on the press. So, and then you get back under there with, see, here it is. So you get back under there, back into here, and it's just right there. But you know, it's just a constant effort to get this thing to let go of that flywheel. I want that flywheel. Jump in my belly, flywheel. Anyway. Yeah, this is what you have to do, and you just have to keep working at it, you know. And you're not gonna, it's not gonna just, you know, do itself. Yeah, and that sucker's back on there again. See, that is really on there. Boy, that glue's good. So, anyway, that's the deal. But another thing too that I had to do was. Let me take this off so I can show you. Yes, because I'm going to have trouble getting this off back again. You know, it's a good thing I don't even need it, because I'd be really upset. But anyway, so take this back off. There's the washer. Another thing I had to do, and you can see where I've already gotten it pretty much off. It's a little bit further than it has to go. And, you know, I just made a press shaft to go in there, but this is what you have to do. Another thing. See, this is something you have to really look at up close. I don't know if you can't really see it that way. But anyway, it's like the sleeve, okay, which I did before. So the only sleeve that actually fits the shaft itself that I'm trying to use to press this thing off is this big. It's tiny. It's a little 2 millimeter shaft. So what I had to do was I had to take and like Russian nesting dolls, take more tube and a next size tube that this would fit in, and then glue that tube inside of the other tube, which is the largest tube, which pretty much fits flush. And then you can see here how I've done that. You see, you go through all this trouble, and I got to tell you, these little tubes, metal tubes, come in assortments of tubes, and then you know, you have to figure out which one's the right size and cut them down to the right size, because they can't be too long, because you know, then the rod will be hitting the tube and you won't have clearance to, you know, press off your flywheel.